kind of hard by now to keep the overview with the big Need for Speed franchise, even to figure out how to make a good one. To answer that question, in this episode of Nitro Nights, we got LPN05 and BlackPanthaa to discuss how to build a proper new Need for Speed. Check it out. Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of Nitro Nights here at Overtake.gg. I'm Rene, your host, and this time we dive into the big franchise that is Need for Speed. Why, you might ask yourself? Because there will be a new title, Need for Speed Unbound. We just had the reveal trailer, and we know it's coming this year, but the community is very critical about it, right? They want different things. They want finally a good Need for Speed, but what would be a good Need for Speed by now? We had so many titles, who knows, right? We try to solve that mystery with our two guests and figuring out how to do a good Need for Speed title, a new entry to the franchise. But since there have been so many entries already, it's kind of hard to even remember all the different features, all the different styles we had in Need for Speed. So let's remind ourselves of all the games that came before Need for Speed Unbound.
Whether you love or hate it, Need for Speed is iconic. With 22 entries, NFS is the longest-running racing game franchise around. In the beginning, everything evolved around supercars in the original The Need for Speed. Under the influence of the high-flying movie The Fast and the Furious, NFS took a new approach, bringing us arguably the best-ever titles in the series: Underground, Most Wanted, and Carbon. Afterwards, NFS took a wrong right and tried to be many things: a simulation, an MMO, a telltale game, and like it was before all of that, with little success. In the last 10 years, Need for Speed was soul-searching, missing, hitting, and missing again with their releases. Now, all eyes are glued onto NFS Unbound, which will seemingly bring some fresh air into the casual racing scene.
Quite a long list when it comes to the Need for Speed titles, many of them over the years, and we actually found a guest that actually traveled alongside the Need for Speed series, I would say. Lucas Bracht, also known as LPN05, great to have you in the studio back once again, because you had been here previously. And you are kind of Need for Speed, aren't you?
Yeah, I've played all of them, really the whole list that's available.
Let's try to figure out with this entire franchise, and because we know in the community, everyone's like, yeah, make it great again, kinda. Yeah. Not a political campaign, though. But what would be great, right? Because Need for Speed over the years had been so different.
Yeah, we had in the beginning always supercars. When it started with the Need for Speed was only supercars and stuff like that. Then with Hot Pursuit we added cops to that, and then was a big shift with Need for Speed Underground because of the Fast and Furious movies. And I think most of the fans really started with Underground back then in 2003, but we shifted back then to supercars again, and then Need for Speed shift with simulation, so we were all over the place.
Okay, so we have open world and no open world. We had cops, no cops, supercars, tuning, bit more simulation aspect with the Shift series, right? Which later on became Project Cars, kinda, with the Madness engine and all of that. Now there is a new title coming, which is why we're doing this show, right? There was the reveal trailer for Need for Speed Unbound. Before we might dive into that, let's quickly look into the actual trailer of NFS Unbound and what we could actually see there.
The first trailers of Need for Speed Unbound are like the pipe dream of any underground fan out there. It's a callback to the golden times, with a bit of new age thrown in. Streetlight, cop chases, and pretty much everything we used to have and love seems to make a glorious return in this title. Wagering cars seems to be back. Drag racing was hinted at in the first trailer, and signs of drift competitions were spotted too. And then there are the jaw-dropping animated effects that are stealing the show right now, that also seem to function as equipable items that you can customize your ride with. If you want to learn more about NFS Unbound and the first reveal trailer, you can find our full first impressions on it linked in the top right. But now, let's hear from Rene and Lucas on the couch on how they like the new Need for Speed look.
New art style for Need for Speed Unbound. I think that's the most striking, at least. Like all these comic or anime elements. We saw the characters. We're a bit like, they remind me of League of Legends Arcane. I wrote that down on one of our videos.
A little bit cel-shading optic, yeah.
Yeah, I like it though. I'm happy that they did do the cast like that. But I think for characters it's fine. But the biggest thing is, especially for, you're a big content creator in Need for Speed, in the Need for Speed world. So I guess you get a lot of the comments like, oh, hopefully it will be this and that. But how would a Need for Speed have to be like nowadays to be a success then, if the entire history of it isn't cohesive anyway?
Yeah, I think biggest core component of the game is for sure the customization of the cars. I mean, it didn't start with that, with supercars, but most of the fans are from the underground era of the game, or later in Need for Speed, which always had tuning in it. So my favorite things would be tuning, cops in the game, because it really is fun to have chases in the open world, and no other arcade racer does it at the moment. And for sure the street racing aspect.
One of the biggest conversation I see on Need for Speed videos, and obviously you do a lot of them that I actually watched, there's always discussion about these stylistic elements, like this anime smoke coming off the tires. The wings, by the way, those wings, just to make that clear, the wings that we see in the Need for Speed thing come from Initial D.
Yeah.
Because that happened in the 90s, where they showed this aura around cars, and there's one scene where it gets these wings. And I saw the Need for Speed reveal trailer, and I was like, wait, saw that before. Do you expect this to be an actual feature in the game?
Like for yes, yeah, because they showed some little gameplay elements in the trailer as well, where you see the S4 team from behind, and that's in-game. So that will be in-game for sure, but I think it will be like in Heat or in the Crew 2, where you got your vanity items, where you can choose, I want that smoke on my car and those nitro flames and stuff like that. I think there will be a base option that will look more realistic, like normal smoke, because in the reveal trailer you always see a Corvette C8 doing some drifts, and the smoke is normal. I don't know if that's just everyone that did it on mistake, like
previous build or something.
Yeah, we only forgot to add the smoke. But I think there will be an option to toggle it down. But I don't think it will be an option for the opponents, like the drivers you drive against in multiplayer or in a single-player campaign. I think they will use it for sure, but not this nitro effect you see, like the whole screen is shaking and stuff like that. I think that's only for yourself, because if you start with like 5 guys at the start and everyone hits the nitro button, which just be a big overflow of effects on the screen. But I hope it will be toggleable, because I know many people don't like it, but it's overall art style, like with the characters and stuff like that, and they chose it, so I really like it, because Initial D used the same, so it should work.
Obviously, Lucas, I want to kind of send you back home, because I know that you do a lot of videos. You already did like 3 or 4 on NFS Unbound. So thank you once again for joining us. And really hoping that we all get what we want, even though that might be a bit different what everyone wants.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thanks for having me. And see you next time.
And with that, obviously, we're not done with Nitro Nights, because there's way more. We want to see another opinion, want to hear another opinion on NFS Unbound, which is why we've got another interview for you. Now that we're so much about the problems of creating a proper Need for Speed title already from LPN05, we got another big name for you from the Need for Speed scene. That's obviously BlackPanthaa. Theo, thank you very much for joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm ready to talk about anything Need for Speed, always.
Let's be real, if we look at YouTube, you probably never talk about anything else besides saying that Juice 2 wasn't your title. So
yeah.
when it comes to Need for Speed, what's your history with it? Where did you start?
So from memory, the first experience I had with Need for Speed was actually Porsche Unleashed. So that was quite late compared to a lot of people. I align with Lucas. Most Wanted, Carbon, even Underground. Those are like my games that I remember the most of. But I said Porsche was like my first one into it. I may have played some previous ones, but it would have been like at a friend's house. Don't really remember type deal. But yeah, Most Wanted is like the king to me.
Is it then, if you now look at Need for Speed Unbound, which obviously brings this new art style, which, as I said already earlier, reminds me a bit of League of Legends Arcane in terms of the characters, the shading. What do you want from a Need for Speed? Do you just want another Underground Most Wanted, or where do we go?
So my absolute favorite from recent times is Need for Speed Heat. I think that did really, really well for them, and all they really did is kind of improve upon what the past 2 titles were and kind of realign. The recent 2015 Payback, Heat, those were all very similar, but Heat kind of got the balance of everything that I kind of wanted from it. So with Unbound, all I'm really hoping for is more of that. And of course, they've done a spin on it with the kind of cartoon effects and such. I was a little bit wary of how it was going to turn out. When I first saw some of the leaks and such, I genuinely thought it was pretty much just kind of before lighting, before textures. I thought this was just how games look when they're in early development. But no, that's kind of the style they were going for. So I'm intrigued. I wouldn't say there's a group of people that are kind of bothered by it. There's a group of people that are excited about it. I'm probably leaning on excited because I know the game, as long as it follows the previous formula, I'm going to really enjoy it.
When you would have one wish open for the entire franchise, doesn't matter if it's Need for Speed Unbound or for the one after, is there a specific element that you would like to maybe bring into it or bring back from a previous title?
So I think something they've failed on time and time again with Need for Speed majorly was the multiplayer. They always mess something up. I remember in Need for Speed Payback, there was no free roam multiplayer, which is just bizarre in a game that came out a few years ago. And then in Need for Speed Heat, that's another thing they messed up. They had all drive, so basically you could you drive around and there's people in your session, you do the progression with them or without them. But there was no proper PvP. There was no way to do decent competitive without, with random people. It was always with friends. You had to organize it and set it up. And it just creates I'm not going to jump on and play unless I have to organize it. So I think multiplayer is a big one. I think the best multiplayer in racing games some of them have actually come from Criterion. So I really hope that they follow those and look at, although I don't like it, Most Wanted 2012's multiplayer was, in my opinion, I think better than the main campaign. And then Burnout Paradise, the fun challenges you could do with people, that's what I want to do in a racing game.
Yeah, I mean, multiplayer definitely is a very important aspect. And I remember, when I was younger and not as grey as now, I did a ton of 1v1 races on Need for Speed Underground. That's actually how I started into, esports. It's like Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2 in the 1v1 ladder back in the days, a long time ago. Do you see any problems regarding the release date? Do you think we will get it end of this year without any delays? Or do you still think there's too much unknown right now?
I think we'll get it. I don't think this short window makes sense to announce and then release to then go, oh yeah, no, we need another month. It's already had a year, which again they did work on Battlefield, but I don't imagine the whole of the studio worked on Battlefield, because let's say the car handling people, it wouldn't really make sense for them.
Probably
to be
didn't do Battlefield. No.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that they keep this game.
Wait for Underglow Neons being included in Battlefield. All right, Theo, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. And then we're looking forward to see your videos as well on the new Need for Speed Unbound.
Appreciate it.
And with that, we got 2 interviews, 2 different opinions, but we also heard that there are similarities, right? Multiplayer seems to be a big thing in Need for Speed, or a big thing missing in the Need for Speed series lately. So let's all hope for an actual improvement, especially on that side. Well, definitely not be easy for EA creating a Need for Speed that we all love, because there's so many different opinions and so many different styles by now, as we just learned. But still, we all kind of have a soft spot for the series, right? I mean, there's probably no one out there that never played a single Need for Speed title. If you are that person that never played a single Need for Speed title, let us know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, obviously, let us know what you want from Unbound or what you wish for the franchise in general. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel, like the video, and follow us on social media so you never miss a single episode, a single video that we have on Overtake.gg. Obviously, we will play Need for Speed Unbound here on Overtake.gg, so don't miss out on that either. This is it for today's Nitro Night. There will be more action coming your way very, very soon, as we got weekly uploads for all of you. My name is Rene, and I see you guys next time. Now that you hopefully liked and subscribed, I can see that I will check it. You might want to watch more Overtake content. Why not check out the previous episode of Nitro Nights, where we talked about F1 Manager versus the F1 game. There's a big discussion about that. If you don't know, better check it out on the video. Or see what Marvin is up to in his latest game review.